The People versus O.J. Simpson. The new series is bringing back vivid memories, controversies too, from 2 decades ago. And some players at the center of the story not happy with how it's being told. Deborah Roberts here with more. Hey, Deborah.
Hey, George. Lots of buzz around this one, of course. The trial that mesmerized the nation is again taking center stage. The FX series bringing in 5 million viewers Tuesday night, making it the channel's most watched drama series debut ever. And as you say, perhaps one of its most controversial.
Got 2 victims in Brentwood.
Brentwood? Nobody gets killed in Brentwood.
This morning, the FX series sparking big buzz on social media and among those portrayed in the series.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
For the father of Ron Goldman, murdered alongside Nicole Brown Simpson, mixed emotions.
Some parts I was okay with and others not. I was okay with the rantings of the killer because that's who he is.
Goldman, who owns rights to the infamous book If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, says the series does a disservice to his son and Nicole Brown Simpson.
Their only involvement in this series is as dead bodies in the beginning, and that's the extent of the victims in this story. It's a story primarily, as we understand it, about the attorneys.
One of those attorneys, former Simpson prosecutor Marcia Clark, saying on The View Wednesday the series may serve a positive purpose.
It's a good thing. It's going to spark this discussion that we need to have about the reasons for the division, the racial divide when it comes to the view of the trial and the verdict.
Yet former Simpson house guest and prosecution witness Cato Kalin insists the FX drama is filled with inaccuracies, even mocking his portrayal in a New York Daily News essay, writing, "I'm talking scenes where that ridiculous blonde wig is rearing its ugly head, which were completely fabricated."
They're talking about the mother of my children dying, and they're asking me these questions.
Anybody watching it, especially the generation who never knew of this case at all, I think they have to watch with a clear eye and understand that this is a fictionalized version, and not everything is going to be true.
Clearly, this TV drama has been difficult for many who lived through that courtroom ordeal. Marcia Clark said it was like reliving a nightmare. We reached out to FX to talk about some of these comments, and they had no comment. But I have to tell you all, lots of passionate reactions, including from the actors. I interviewed some of them. Cuba Gooding Jr. said that many years ago, of course, like a lot of black men, he thought, okay, good, O.J. got justice. But in filming this, he said he broke down in tears once because he never really thought as much about the victims. Yeah. So even the actors themselves have been impacted by it.
It just transports you right back to that moment in time as you were reliving.
Where were you?
Everyone knows where they were during that Bronco chase. It's really remarkable.
We'll be watching still, Deborah. Thank you.
Yeah, we will.
George?
Okay, thanks, guys. Joining us now from Tampa, Florida is O.J. Simpson's friend and former manager, Norman Pardo. Mr. Pardo, thanks for joining us this morning. O.J. is not happy with the idea of this series, is he?
Oh, no, this is not something he's looking forward to, especially with his parole hearing coming up.
And
to rehash all this.
I'll bet he's not. And what are his biggest problems with this, and what have you heard as you've been in touch with him?
The only real problem I think he has with any of this, him personally, he doesn't really care other than his parole. I'm sure this is going to be a big effect on that next year. But his kids, I think that they're having to relive something that they don't want to do, and it's going to last for a couple months. That's the sad thing.
You think he'll watch?
Well, I'm sure he will, because he'll say he won't, but he always does. He always says he never reads the rags, but he does. I mean, curiosity, it's about him. Even though, it is fictional or whatnot, it's about him. So he'll watch, somehow they'll figure out a way to do it. It's sad for the kids. That's the main thing. They shouldn't have to go through this all over again. Their mother was butchered, and their father's considered a murderer by a lot, and they have to relive that for the next 2 months over and over and over. They can't even go to the restaurant without it airing. So it's a hard thing for them.
How about that portrayal
and all the other victims
by Cuba Gooding Jr.?
Well, that's sort of silly. I mean, I'm sure he's a really nice guy and all, but he's definitely not like O.J. Simpson. They never consulted, I don't think, anybody from O.J.'s side to explain that that's not O.J. It doesn't even sound like him. I don't even know what's up with it stuff. I mean, that part made me laugh. I don't get it. But, you know, he did the best he could, I guess. It's just O.J. Simpson has a charisma about him. He's a good-looking guy. He's a ladies' man, big guy, you know, a football player. You know, when he walks into a room, everybody runs to him, the women. I mean, it's just, they called him Bait in college because of his looks. I mean, and Cuda Gooding Jr. is a nice guy, but he's not a big guy. You know, he doesn't look like O.J. in any way, shape, or form, and definitely doesn't sound like him.
Last time we saw O.J. on tape, he seemed like a pretty defeated guy.
Well, he is. He's very depressed right now. I mean, he doesn't want to talk to people. He's become real isolated, institutionalizing himself. Every time he talks to somebody, it brings back the outside, and then he has to reinstitutionalize himself. So he really likes to be left alone. You know, when we have friends that go visit him, he'll visit them for a minute or two, and then he's got to go. He said, I've got to go back in there. We're working on fantasy football things or something like that, and he actually leaves them there. You know, and that's which is really weird because they drive 3 days to get there.
You know, I'm wondering.
He's the one who's ready to leave.
You know, before we go, you know, this movie Concussion has sparked a lot of debate about degenerative brain disease and football, and the doctor who inspired it thinks that he thinks O.J. suffers from it, that disease known as CTE. Do you think he may be right?
O.J. has a lot of issues. I mean, he'll do things that are just whacked out. He'll sit in the corner and he'll talk to himself. He'll answer himself. And I've caught him doing that numerous times. I deal with people who are usually unpromotable, the people who have to be turned around. O.J. was one, you can't really deal with him because he doesn't understand a lot of things. Like going in Vegas when he went into that room. He knew better. He called me and I told him don't go in there, but he did it. Because he doesn't understand things. He's like a child. When we handle him, it's like a child. You really got to, you know, you got to really watch him, watch his mannerisms. I think that FX should have actually contacted me just to get some of my video footage. I got 70 hours of him just to learn his mannerisms and find out what he's like to be around.
Mr. Pardo,
and then you could see that.
Thank you very much for your time this morning.
I thank you.